Have you ever placed a thank you note in a casket of someone you love? I have. Have you ever known someone who got to the point where they couldn't live and they couldn't die? I have. Have you ever had someone in your life that you appreciated for the pain and suffering they face daily with a smile and humor? I have. Death is sad, cancer is cruel, but God is real. Dictionary.com defines a role model as a noun meaning a person whose behavior, example, or success can be emulated by others. The speech I am about to present is about someone who had these qualities and more. I lost this role model only a few months ago. The pain is still fresh, the memory is vivid, and the example of a life full of laughter and love etched in my mind. Her name was Katie Glee Finney. She was born July 4th, 1936 to George and Clyde Finney, the only daughter and the second of 5 children. She grew up with good parents and brothers who'd always looked out for her. She was my great aunt. So far, her life sounds pretty common. However, in most lives there is some heartache and loss, and hers is no different. I met Aunt Katie after much of her life and some tragedies had passed. My mother told me many stories as we traveled to the cemetery each summer for our church's annual decoration. As a young child, dancing among the tombstones in my frilly new dress, Sunday shoes, and ruffled socks, I noticed a stone with a picture of a boy with curly hair smiling very sweetly. The picture was framed in shiny ceramic and glistened in the sun, and I liked to polish it with the hem of my dress. As I grew, this fascination became more of an interest, and I inquired about him only to find his death was one of Aunt Katie's many tragic events. This young man was her oldest son, Stanley, who had drowned when he was 16, while trying to save a friend who had fallen in the river while fishing. I had always known my Aunt Katie to have 2 other children that I had met and wasn't aware she had lost another. Her other son, Tommy, served our country in the Army. After many years of service in a tour during Desert Storm, he retired to spend time with his mother. The happy times were short-lived as he began having muscle weakness and fatigue, only to be diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease. The 40-something, smart and vibrant son soon began to fail, eventually ending up in an electric wheelchair paralyzed. On an icy night in winter, he lost his battle when the electricity shut down and his generator failed to work, causing his ventilator to quit smothering him in his sleep. 2 children now buried, but my aunt, who had such strong faith, continued on her journey with a smile. Within the next 5 years, she buried both her parents also. In 2007, she found out that she had breast cancer. My family was with her on the day she had surgery to remove the cancer. My grandparents helped her through many days of sickness and treatments. Aunt Katie battled several years. She became weaker and thinner, and blood work concluded that she now had multiple myeloma. What a cruel diagnosis. She started more treatments and gained some strength back. She was able to drive again and work in her beloved flower garden. Life was good for about 5 years. Then the treatments didn't work anymore. She became weak again and lost weight. On sunny summer days, she would crawl on her hands and knees to plant her garden. Through all the heartache and sickness, Aunt Katie also enjoyed her cats, Miss Ellie, Pooh, and Sugar Baby. They were her constant companions, sleeping with her on her hospital bed and comforting her in her pain. As the last days drew near, my aunt called a meeting to everyone on how she wanted things done. That's just how she was. The one thing that stuck out in my mind was that after she had gone, she wanted her cats to be put down. She said she knew they wouldn't understand why she left them, and she didn't want to burden anyone else with them. Aunt Katie lingered for several months. Some days she knew us and some days she didn't. The last 2 weeks of her life were filled with pain, medicine, lots of sleep, and round-the-clock care. She slipped away early in the morning of July 26, 2014. My eyes filled with real. Many people offered their condolences at the funeral home during the visitation before the service. A quilt that she and my great-grandmother had made was draped over the casket. A purple outfit and a sweater from her closet clothed her still body, while the suit she brought to be buried in hung in silence back at her house. It's what she wanted at the end, just a simple something to keep her warm. Her hair was styled and her makeup applied. These were also at her request. She said she didn't want people to stand around and say how bad she looked. I sobbed as I placed a thank you note in her casket. She hadn't made it to my high school graduation, but had her granddaughter address my card with money inside. Aunt Katie was too weak to sign it in the end, but left a suggestion that I buy something with it that will help me remember her. As our family sat in silence waiting for the preacher to begin, Rod Stewart filled the air from the speakers with the following words: "Be courageous, be brave, and in my heart you'll stay forever young." That was my aunt having a great laugh, as she knew the song was perfect for her, but also knew her mourning brothers would be lightened by the fact that she had chosen some rock and roll for her departure. Ma Paul and her other brothers carried her casket. She was placed in the ground near the two sons and her parents who had gone on before. She is gone now, but will never be forgotten. What an amazing role model. She had faced triumphs and tragedies and always came through smiling and praising her God. We lost someone very special that day, but heaven